now locked into the Live with Brandon Blakney podcast. Here is your host, Brandon Blakney.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Brandon Blakney, aka BrandonLee TV. I know I've been away a few weeks from the podcast. Your boy been making some moves out here, but definitely happy to be back. Appreciate y'all tuning in. We got an action-packed episode. Y'all know how I'm rocking already. Definitely want to give y'all this preview of the high school season. We're 3 games left in the regular season, right in the heart of conference play. We got a lot of action that I've been taking in the last couple weeks. This past week, we'll start off with Mount Tabor. The comeback kids, 3 years in a row they've beaten Dudley. They came back, won an impressive game, very physical football game. These guys rely heavy on the run. I've seen them this year, stingy defense, but they do rely heavily on the run. Senior Mark Akins, 5'8", rocket in a bottle, went for 241 yards on the season thus far. Brian B.J. McIntyre, 239 yards on the ground currently. Tabor sits 5-3, 2-0 in conference play, though, in a brutal conference. And with them getting the head-to-head nod versus Dudley, it looks like they were taking a lot of momentum into this game that should be a very winnable game against Smith. These guys could firmly find themselves in first place of this conference right now. They are leading it by a game. This team just knows how to get it done, man. When it's crunch time, big players make big plays. It's just Tabor's tough, man. The coaches got these guys buying in. They're playing in. They've lost some close games, but they found their stride. And like I said before, earlier in the year, I think if you saw my article on Sports Carolina Monthly, I mentioned this is a group I felt like when it gets cold outside, when we're in conference play and games really, really start to matter, Tabor's just continuously wins those ball games. And they've had Dudley's numbers for 3 years now. And that is no easy feat, especially knowing what the talent that Dudley does boast. Now, Tabor could firmly be in the lead if they defeat Smith next week. With 2 games remaining down the stretch, they're in a position to write their own fate. Kind of like a repeat of last year. It could be potentially, but they just go on that run, take one of the top seeds in the playoffs, for the 3A division, and that home field advantage can really come up clutch. I think this is a group that is playing their best football towards the end of the year, and it'll be fun to see them hit their peak, to be honest with you. Speaking of Dudley, though, they will have a tough matchup against Parkland. But first, Dudley. Now, this group has been playing good football since week 2. Went on a bit of a winning streak, impressed throughout that winning streak. The offense really started to come together. Sophomore Jameer Slade settled in, thrown for 733 yards, 9 touchdowns to just 2 interceptions, not really turning the ball over much, according to Max Preps. Just seeing this kid dual threat, real athletic, can make plays, can extend plays for this team. Branson Adams, Milan Summers, Miles Smith, 3 hard-running running backs. Adams has 383 yards on the year, 7 touchdowns, which ties a team high. You got Milan Summers, 339 yards. Miles Smith, the other back, 45 yards, but 7 total touchdowns. 7 total touchdowns. So I think with him, Mike Wyman definitely has to continue to keep getting involved. The USC commit. The defensive line gets a lot of headlines, and deservedly so. Peyton Page, the number 1 defensive tackle in the nation right now, top athlete at the position in all of America for his class. Miles Murphy, the USC commit, on the end there. They're big, they're physical, and they wreak a lot of havoc, and they have all season long. You're hard-pressed to find a more talented team than Dudley. They've lost 2 games in Winston this year, but I wouldn't count the Panthers out by any means. They're having a tough test, though, against Parkland. We mentioned dual threat Cammy Shell, one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the entire state, in my opinion. Chase Rory, his right-hand man at receiver, plays all over the field, can take it out of the backfield, can, make plays out of the slot, can go out wide and make plays, fast, shifty in space. He's a tough tackle to make in the open field. He will make you look goofy. Scott Walker completely transformed his body. Takes some snaps out of the backfield. Also, reliable hands, provides a big target in the red zone for this group. Jaquan Kelly's also another talented skill player at the running back position. This is an offense with a lot of speed, and it can be tough to contain. I think they're playing good football. I saw them last week against Western Guilford. A lot to like here, and I think that this could be a trap game from Dudley if they're not careful. The last game I saw like that was when I called the trap game was Reagan versus Glenn. Glenn ended up getting the W there. I believe it was 8-7. So just telling you, Parkland could catch this group slipping. They're tough. They haven't lost at home. I think that'll be a game to watch for sure, to keep an eye out on, especially in one of the tougher 3A conferences. The game we must talk about, though, Davie County knocking off West Forsyth in an absolute shootout, like Big 12 football out there. Nate Hampton holds multiple Division I offers. Huge quarterback, 6'5", 6'6". Agile, though, surprisingly agile for his size, not afraid to tuck it and run, fight for them extra yards. Finished with 300 yards in the air, 2 touchdowns through the air as well, and he ran for 1. This kid is really talented, big arm, makes all the throws, good feet, shows patience in the pocket. Behind him, he's got Tate Carney at running back, the younger brother of K.E. Carney, running back at Wake Forest. 99 yards for the younger Carney, 2 touchdowns on the ground, runs the ball hard, physical back, but also has good speed in the open field, take it the distance. Jack Reynolds, 15 catches, 176 yards, 2 touchdowns. Big-time receiver performance there from Reynolds. Zahari Maddox, also another good, explosive, versatile athlete for this group. Great win for Davie. 5-3, 2-0 though in that Piedmont Triad 4A conference, 2-0. So that's something to definitely keep an eye out on, with East Forsyth and West Forsyth both suffering losses already in conference play. Their next matchup will be Glenn. Could be another tough matchup. Glenn went in and beat an undefeated Reagan squad not too long ago. Tough, stout defense. One of the most underrated linebacking cores in the entire state, in my humble opinion. These guys are versatile. They're fast. They cover a lot of ground, and they are not afraid to deliver the boom out there on teams. Just all these guys really swarm to the football. They know how to get and pursue to the football and get hats on the ball. This defense really hasn't given up many points on the year, just looking at them on paper. They're a good group. And leading that Glenn defense, junior Renaria Dilworth, 58 total tackles, solo tackles on the year, 5 sacks from the linebacker position. Got the senior leader, Daniel Napper, 20 solo tackles. Sophomore Albert Red, 23 solo tackles. Nice mix of experience and youth in there getting it done. Definitely one of the more underrated linebacking cores in the state. I think they're definitely one of the best 3 linebackers together, one of the best cores around the triad for sure. I know Javari Ritzy, the 4-star defensive end, gets a lot of the headlines, which he should. Has a lot of colleges knocking on the door for his talents. But this Glenn defense overall, I think the front 7 is talented. They're physical, and they're playing really good football. Up until last week, they had only given up 32 points on the year. 32 points on the year. That's tough. So I definitely think that they're going to make it tough on this explosive Davie offense. And I'm expecting a physical game. I think there will be a lot of the ground game. I think Nate Hampton will get tested. I think he'll have a chance to throw that rock around a little bit, spread it out to some of these receivers. But I do think that this Glenn defense could be up to the task. I think that'll be another game to watch in a conference that you're not going to find many 4A conferences tougher than this one. I mean, you got Davie, West, East, and Reagan all battling it out. Glenn is no slouch either. There's really not any easy wins in this division. You also got R.J. Reynolds, who have lost some close games, lost some tough games, but still talent down there. The tough game they got next up against West, Jamani Wilson, absolute workhorse, had a great game against Davie. Still continues to prove that he's one of the best running backs around the area. 3-star recruit according to 24/7 Rivals. I think he's going to have a big game. He's tough to contain. And once he gets a nose around that end zone, he's powering through, baby. I'm telling you. He just seems like the later in the game it gets, the harder this kid runs the football. Definitely think that he's an X factor, and they're going to have to really focus in on him. To be honest with you, though, I think West Forsyth is definitely going to come out ready to go, amped up, energy high. I mean, they just coming off of their first loss. They coming out with something to prove. I think this massive offensive line is going to make some holes for Jamani, Mr. G-Money, Wilson. I think West has a big performance, but I also think that they can't come out and overlook this R.J. Reynolds team because there is some talent here. Potentially, though, the biggest ticket on the biggest game on the ticket this week could be Reagan versus East, battling for position in this brutal 4A Piedmont Triad Conference. Now, it's been a tough stretch for East Forsyth. They beat Grimsley, who was undefeated. Then they lost to undefeated East Forsyth. And then they got to play Reagan now. And that's a very tough stretch. All these teams, one-loss teams, are undefeated at the time. Reagan, I think this game is really going to come down to quarterback play. Reagan, Gabriel Hollingsworth, one of the most consistent athletes and quarterbacks overall in the area, can do a lot of damage on the ground, can make all the throws that you need a quarterback to make, big arm, charismatic leader for these guys. He's got Daniel Moyer Jr. behind him in the backfield, super speedy running back, really shifty in the open field, track star too, so it just tells you the level of speed and home run ability that he does have in the open field when he does get the ball in his hands. Reagan's got some talented offensive linemen. Reagan's got some talent on the defensive line as well. These guys are big, physical, and I think they're going to be up against a very physical and massive East Forsyth line as well. The battle in the trenches is going to be something to watch here. All these guys, man, just going to be... I think the battle in the trenches here is going to be one to really keep an eye out on as well. Really physical. Who can control the line of scrimmage could be a deciding factor in this game. I think Ty Lyles is really finding his stride late in the season, building more confidence, getting the ball out to these receivers, getting the running backs involved in the passing game. This kid's been battle tested many times, and he's already a state champion at just his, as a sophomore, which is nuts. I think this year, junior year, he's come in. He's hasn't had the best performances, but he has locked in as a leader and been a reliable teammate as far as getting these guys where they need to be and making sure that this offense is running smoothly. The run game going to be huge. Dudley going to have to deal with Amani Marshall and all these other running backs. These guys have a stable, and it could be any guy's night, any given night with East Forsyth. The defense makes plays, and they kill teams and special teams too. So I think this will be a great matchup to watch. For our battle of one of the toughest 4A conferences in the state, hands down. A lot of good football going on. Also dominating headlines, East Surrey wide receiver Stephen Gosnell flipped his commitment from NC State to rival North Carolina, becomes the third East Surrey County player to join the North Carolina Tar Heels. And it seems like Surrey County, and Eastern in particular, is definitely Tar Heel country. One of the better receivers around the area. Um, Really crispy route runner, reliable hands, can play on the inside, can play on the outside, can rack up the yak yards. Um, Definitely, I think over time could be a big commitment for North Carolina. It's a kid that I think wants to get better, open to being coached, and he's having a breakout senior season. Had a good year last year playing quarterback. He's playing more receiver now. Still, tossing that pigskin a little bit, but playing more receiver now. He's had some big games, so I think that's a big commitment potentially for North Carolina, adding some depth at receiver, adding some depth in the special teams potentially. Just another athlete that can contribute, another in-state guy that can contribute. And, hey, you could never have too many receivers, especially receivers coming in to make plays. So definitely looking forward to seeing how these guys impact the program over the next several years. That's a wrap for my Friday night preview. Also want to say shout out to my Washington Nationals, getting that big dub in Game 1 over the Houston Astros. They were my dark horse to get into the World Series months back. Don't act like y'all don't know. Don't act like we haven't been on the wave. So definitely excited. Keep them Nats in your hopes, in your dreams, because they are making noise. And, you know what I'm saying? For all the latest and the greatest, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I'm Brandon Blakney, a.k.a. BrandonLee TV. You dig?